is on a mission to make real change by facilitating solutions for our everyday lives. We'll be joined by professionals and influential individuals to share with you their journey and recipe for success. We ask about their methods and experience. Is it their career, their education, or is it their background? This is our secret sauce to enlighten, uplift, and empower the community where we are all special. Welcome to WeAfric Talk, where our support is our actions. If they don't believe you, tell them to subscribe to this channel. Welcome, my beautiful people. I'm super excited to have you here today and the conversation we get to have. We have an amazing PR, author, writer, podcast host, professional who will be sharing their story with us. And when I say amazing, I mean it. What's so special about our guest is that it's the living proof that the distance between you and anything you want is the amount of action you take. Thank you so much, Kellen, for joining us today on the WeAfric Talk. Greatly appreciate your time. So for anyone who doesn't know who you are, can you please just explain to us who is Kellen, please?
Well, besides my name, I'm a husband, father of two, and I run business. Business has always been something that I wanted to do because I saw that my grandmother had, multiple businesses. That was something that I wanted to do. From Oakland, California, originally. Grew up in the Bay Area and raised in a city as well called Concord, California, right outside of Oakland. The Bay Area was home until I was 18. And then it was time to, go, see the world.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. How would you describe your life you're not in Oakland anymore? I understand you've moved recently, right?
Yes, I'm in Florida right now. Life is beautiful. We were in Seattle prior. We've lived in probably at least 4 states. Work and school has, allowed us to be able to move, and we'll be here for at least 5 years. I'm in no rush right now. This is all so fresh, but we also have investment in my wife's home country, Cameroon, and there's other places in Africa that I have invested, and I'm looking towards, having a house. The next goal is for me to have a home, Mombasa, Kenya, right at the beach, and it will be just a dream come true.
And in terms of when you say a home in Kenya, is that because you have quite a lot of business ties there, or is it just a case of you just decided to choose that particular country?
We're doing some business there, but I really liked Kenya, but I like being by the water. And so, our place in Cameroon is right on the water. And, we're going to start building that spot. And my place in Kenya, I'd like to be right by the water. It's something about the water. It's calming. I swim every day. It just makes it great when you can work out, jump in some water, and relax.
Oh, fantastic. I can see you have quite a pool over there for you to do your local swimming, which is great. You also do quite a lot of work in terms of because you do PR, you're an author, you used to write for publications, a consultant, podcast host, there's so many things that you're involved in. How did you start in all these things and why did you start?
Well, I started because it was always a dream. About 12 years old, I wrote this vision down and I made it plain as the scriptures talk about. I've had a lot of jobs too along the way, and I've had to work businesses while having a job, and I've done so many, and I keep all of them to the best of my knowledge on LinkedIn to remind me that, you hear a lot of people say, oh, I'm a guru. I've never worked a day in my life. Oh, I've worked a day in my life. Graduating with a bachelor's, I had to work at McDonald's. I only lasted 2 days because I burned my finger and they told me I couldn't curse. But I've had a lot of jobs. I've worked in the oil field. I've drove trucks. I did everything I could to get here because I had it. I won't say it just came about. It was hard work. I went to a school, my first private school. I had to leave that school, and I then had to go work 2 jobs, night shift at Chevron Gas, working at a shoe store, and having that hustle to really and still do this. And in that journey, I found a magazine called Explosive Magazine, and I was able to write for this magazine. And I got paid in CDs at first.
Okay.
Not any money, but the owner, Ron Hood, who I appreciate and love, quickly started paying me because he saw that I had a mouthpiece and I was going to where I finished school, my bachelor's and master's at Grambling State, and I was able to distribute his magazine throughout the South. So I wasn't just a writer, I found the business side of it and made it profitable.
Oh, fantastic. Wow. Really diverse background in terms of your knowledge and your experience, which is probably amounted to where you are today, which is fantastic. It just shows that hard work does pay off. So in terms of your current business portfolio, what would you say is your kind of main business?
The main business is consulting and PR. PR is changing. I tell people all the time, PR is dying to be resurrected into something else because the old skills of PR are dinosaurs. I could personally replace every publicist that I meet if it's just the PR work. The publicist has to be a teacher, has to be a leader, has to be a friend, dang near has to be a family member because they need to be a consultant to let you know if you are underpaying them or overpaying them. So that's the bulk of the business. But with that, we also do business with our clients and we find other businesses to get into. I always tell people my wife is my favorite client with, everything that she has. She's also probably the most difficult too, because she's my wife and you have to learn how to have that balance. Outside of what I do with my wife in healthcare, I have the YouTubers and the African Diaspora news channel is where most people, they know me as, oh, he represents this guy. And there's others we represent, but the African Diaspora, it's a pleasure and a blessing to be able to work with someone who works like you work. You always want to out hustle your clients. Yeah. And that man works, he's humble, and he's just, he has children, he has double the amount of children I have, and he still makes it work. So that's always fun. And it's like, it's work, but it's a passion. And it's something that has been on my brain since I was 12 of being able to go to Africa, show Africa in a certain light. Before I even got to go to Africa, I fell in love with Africa because I grew up with Africans and said, I thought my life was good, but this life here that I'm seeing and hearing about is something out of a movie.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. And I want to say, thanks also for your hard work in terms of giving us the opportunity to kind of get onto the African Diaspora News channel. That was an humbling experience, and also we're truly grateful. We know you've done quite a lot of work for them. How did it all start out for you working with them?
It started out, I reached out. I watched the show. I tell everybody this. If you want to get a client, solve a problem. I saw that, he had an audience of about 425,000, I believe, at the time. And I said, okay, he's going to grow. But I saw that, there are certain things that he could add to his show. So I reached out to him, told him what I did. And it just, God's timing is so much better than ours. It made sense to him. And, we just started working and we've been working since.
Okay, fantastic, incredible. I saw that you have also a publishing house, this For Chief Publishing House, which I think you mentioned you have with your wife.
Well, yeah, everything that I have is with my wife. I've known my wife for 18 years, since she was 18, and we've been married, 12 this year, and so everything is hers. There's not any business that I do or conversations, as crazy as some of them I have, that she doesn't know about, unless she tells me I don't want to know about that. But, for Chief Publishing, I wrote my first book, Quick Tips and Guide to Christian Music and Entertainment, in one of the toughest part of my life. When life just twists upside down, we've all been there. Yeah. And you're like, what's going to happen? And so I always wanted to be an author. I always wrote. So I wrote this book because I was working with these Christian artists while my life was going to come back around. I surely believed God for that. And when I wrote this book, I didn't know that the impact that it would have on the industry. And I only wrote it because the people that I think should have wrote it, who were much bigger in the industry, said, artists don't read, but you can write the book. You have the knowledge. And so I wrote one book. Then I have, this child, and I said, you know what a cool thing would be? All the travels that we do, and I've been to about 16 countries by myself, but I said, that doesn't stop when you get married or you have children if you learn how to do it within a budget. I said, I want to write children's books and I want to write a series. So I have laid out 22 books laid out. We only have a couple that we publish, but there's some tricks in the industry that if you're self-published, they look at you a certain way. Libraries don't want to buy from you. So why don't you create your own company? And also there's groups that you're invited to once you are a publishing house that you would never know of until about your third book. And that's why we created the publishing house. So we could be in these, little groups that few people know about that aren't in the industry. And I really thank people that have given me these tips. And it's the publishing house is my wife's maiden name. And it's also my children's middle name. They both have the same middle name. It's the Mankey tribe, and Fo is like Chief. So that's the lineage. I wanted them to know that y'all weren't slaves. Slavery wasn't your history. That's all they're going to learn here in the school books. But you guys are chiefs. Your grandfather on one side had, they say hundreds of children, possibly hundreds of wives. They stopped counting after, 48. But I just wanted my daughters to know their lineage and not be ashamed of it. And that's why we have Fomenki Publishing.
Oh, fantastic. And it seems like you're bringing diversity in children's literature based on what you've just spoken about, which is fantastic. And the travel series, obviously documenting your travels as well, which is amazing. I was going to say, how's that project, for example, and other projects impacted your life? Because I mentioned you also kind of talked about you're never too busy to read on some of your publications, which I think kind of goes along with that.
You're never too busy to read. And, I tell everybody, this book right here, if they're interested in Africa, 100 ways to make money in Africa, this book you need. And before you pick that book up, I would tell you, pick up this book. And that's the Holy Scriptures. My Ethiopian brothers will know these are the full scriptures. This is more than 66 books. This is what they didn't want you to know about yourself. And so how this has impacted my life, I've been able to travel the world, but also to do it in business. I mean, I go for leisure, but I always try to make some type of connection where it can be business so I can have a reason to come back. And it's one thing to be able to go to Africa and, go to Malta and go wherever you want to go. But it's another thing to be able to bring your family. Yeah. It's another thing to put trips together with other great companies and say, I want to bring my client's audience over to Africa and he wants to go back. And it's just a beautiful thing. And it's all worked out just so lovely.
Oh, amazing. What have you learned from the business people you deal with? Because obviously you do it locally in the US as well and internationally. And what kind of mindset do they have to do business?
Business-wise, what I've done, my thing is to, again, solve problems. And so everybody is unique. Everybody has a different goal. Business-wise, our clients are great, whether they stay for a little bit, which is very few. We have we keep clients more than the average because I'm very upfront. You're either going to love me or say, you know what, I'll be able to deal with him later. But I'm not a hot or cold because I'm very direct. And if you can deal with direct and you don't mind someone not lying to you, you will love what I'm going to tell you. But I can be blunt. I can be harsh. I'm not necessarily going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what is coming to me. And I believe that what's coming to me isn't even through me. It's something bigger. I tell people I'm not that smart. The way this thing comes together, it's not me. It's a team of people. It's a God plan, and we're just used as vessels. So it doesn't start or end with me. I'm just a vessel. So my clients have been able to increase, whether they're influencers or whether it's, something in healthcare. one of our tasks is creating courses in healthcare. So whether they're for nurses or for doctors, their CEUs that they have to do, we create that stuff and put it out there.
Oh, amazing. It sounds like you've got it quite nailed down in terms of the business sense and the approach as well, understanding the hierarchy that is involved in all these protocols and structures as well, which is really, really good. You also run a podcast. I was listening to some of your shows the other day. You do quite a lot of topics, from investment to people's ways of living, the current technology. This is quite a vast amount of topics that you discuss, entitled Work Break. It's quite short, which is quite good. You talk about the importance of giving time in terms of investment in Africa as well, and not taking things personal. What kind of message do you want to give out there? Because it's quite a raw podcast in itself. What was the message behind the podcast?
The whole message of the podcast is to show entrepreneurs how to start, sustain, and succeed in business. Business, I really believe I was made to be an entrepreneur. I'm not a great employee because I have ideas. And most companies and corporate, the ideas, that's not what they do. They you come, 9 to 5, they're very safe. I'm not a safe person. I'm a risk taker. I've rode bulls. I've raced Lamborghinis. I live outside of the box. And even when I die, don't put me in a box. Spread my ashes like, my mother. So that's the whole purpose. I started Diversified Game Podcast with 2 other hosts who were mentees and friends who, had to do other things in their life, so they're no longer part of it. But I started it with them because I have another kind of podcast that I use almost as like my personal diary with the Kellen Cash YouTube. And I have a podcast, it's called like Work Break Conversations as well. I'm just kind of going throughout the day helping. I'm always talking about business. If you talk about me, we're talking about making money. Even if we're having fun, we're talking about having money and making fun. Like going to Africa, we're having fun even though we're working. So the podcast is for Diversified Game. I bring on entrepreneurs to talk and to really give the path of what they did. How did they start? And I'm not looking for your typical guest that I see some of the most popular podcasts have. I'm not going after those people. I book people for a living. I can get almost, I think, whoever I want on my show. And if it makes sense, I will. But even if I get those people on my show, because I've had, some very popular people in their fields, I don't ask them the same questions. I will actually reference another interview because I don't want to ask you the same thing. I want to know, how do you make, $10 million and deal with friends and family and people asking for money? Because these are the things when folks even make their first 10,000, they struggle with, oh, okay, my mom's asking me for money. She heard I was, making a buttload of money, but I really only have $10,000. How do I deal with it? And I can tell you how I dealt with the first 10,000 or 20,000 or whatever the amount of money is. I don't even want it to be necessarily about the money. So the only time I really referenced money about someone's direct money is if a guest has talked about their money prior. I had a 13-year-old millionaire, Christian Jones, on recently. And people have talked about, how does a 13-year-old make $1 million? And it's like, we'll talk about money there, but I would never reference money because I find it to be tacky to talk about the money. But let's talk about the success and let, whatever the amount is, be the amount. Because at some point, the money is just like our president said in one of his books. I used to be a big fan. Money is just, it's a scoreboard. That's it. And it can drive you crazy. And I've seen it, have people wanted to commit suicide or disown their whole family because they let it get to their head.
Yeah, it's crazy, honestly. Yeah, you do make quite a lot of good points there. But yeah, we just need to look at it as an afterthought in terms of it being the main thought. But success should be the one that should be celebrated on a regular basis. I was going to ask, in terms of living in Florida, you have quite a diverse culture there. How much does culture have to do with the type of person you are, considering where you are living and also where you have been in terms of all around the world?
I need it. I need this. We moved from Seattle, and Seattle taught me a lot about business, and it helped me take my business to a different level.
Yes.
But Florida is what I need, because to be able to hear so many different dialects and languages, and where I live, if I leave this, this complex, right across the street, there is a Jamaican place, beautiful Jamaican place. There's, Thai right next door. There's so many things that are right next door, and I need certain things in my life, because when I go get fish, I need the head on it. The American way is cut the head off. To me, that's a quarter of the fish. I gotta go visit my Thai brothers, my Jamaican brothers, my Cuban, anybody who eats the natural way, the way things are supposed to be. So I just love it. I love seeing the beautiful women, just everybody is just, got their brown and black, and just everybody is it's just awesome. And then you see, the grandfather that you want to be, and he's running and he's still in shape, and it motivates you to say, okay, if I want to be like that at 60, this is what I'm going to have to do, because he wasn't sitting on the couch just eating Krispy Kreme. He's putting in his work.
Amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, it sounds like you have quite a lot of diverse culture there, which is quite great in terms of, what you see. It changes the way your beliefs are, and the values and behavior and the characters, which is really amazing. Race is often discussed, and for many reasons, and we will always keep on discussing it. Why do you think we should engage in these type of conversations, and in either in the workplace, either in society, and what kind of outcome do you expect from these kind of conversations?
Well, talking about race is, find the appropriate, there's a time and place for everything. The scriptures talk about that. All of our grandmothers, if we were blessed to be able to have them, told us it's a time and a place. Our mothers, I think we need to talk about it, so it's not the elephant in the room, it's not taboo. And we need to understand the differences, because I see things not in race completely. There is certain races you're comfortable when you're around your tribe, but your tribe isn't necessarily your race. Your tribe are those who think like you. I can put somebody else who looks like me, who doesn't want to talk about business, doesn't want to have a family. So, we need to talk so we know where we can find our tribe. And we usually find our tribe when we know our purpose. And so once you find all of that, you will find that, I do have something in common with this person who may not look like me, but he is like my Irish twin almost. I use that term a lot because Trump and I are Irish twins, and and I'm told he's just down the street, about 10, 15 minutes. So we have to find who we are like. And I find myself a lot before Trump was president to be similar to like a Trump. Not with, the multiple wives or children, but just in reading the books on how business is, in knowing yourself and knowing your friends and picking them wisely. We don't just pick friends to have friends. We have friends to build empires, to build things, because those days of us just, I've had my wild times. Those times were useless. If I knew what I knew now, I would have been building even more on this vision.
Yeah, it's just a different approach to just listening to how you kind of look at it in terms of, as you said, understanding, acknowledgement, acceptance, and how do we correct and connect with the right people in terms of building wealth, resources, land, minerals, income, business, controlling everything that we kind of do within ourselves, which is really, really good. Being proud of where we're from is disappearing within our communities, not just in the diaspora, but also within our continent. And it could be a case of its systematic ways plays kind of a pivotal role in terms of the way we think, in terms of accepting other kind of cultures without really understanding it. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think one, we have the internet. Flights are a lot cheaper. We're exposing ourselves more. I'll speak for this country, and I know, London well enough that, it's very similar. With gentrification, things have shifted around. With our culture of segregation, now you don't have that in most places. There are still some, spots, but it's not legally on the books. So people are able to kind of move, and they're able to be moved because gentrification. I remember old school Brixton, and I still have jackets from Brixton with Haile Selassie's custom. I don't gain too much weight just so I can wear this jacket that Jamaicans have wanted to rip off me before, right? But now Brixton is totally different. The same way where I'm from, Oakland is totally different. So people have been moved as well as wanted to move. And also, we have to remember folks in America, and oh man, Britain, you guys love Malta more than the Maltese. You go where you're treated best. That's a quote from a YouTuber called the Nomad Capitalist. You go where you're treated best, and you go where your money can go the longest. So many American expats for decades have been going all over because they want to retire. They don't want to work as hard or work at all. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And if we go back to what the scriptures, a prophet is never respected at home. So since you're not respected at home, you have to get out, because to your mom and to your dad, you're always going to be that child. To your brother, you're always going to be that big brother who was bossing them around. So then when you go somewhere else and you have knowledge of somewhere else, it's like, oh, this guy's a genius. This guy is smart. This guy knows this. He's well-traveled. So it just makes sense.
Okay, fantastic. Excellent. Speaking of Brixton, I actually used to live there for about 10 years before it got regenerated. And as you said, it's completely changed. But our people, how can we change our mindset to kind of start developing pride in our culture and embracing it in our everyday lives, thinking business-wise, coming together in terms of unity? How can we go about doing this?
We need to read more, because exposure is everything. I don't just travel to travel. I travel so my kids can get exposure, so I can get exposure. What you'll learn traveling, even if it's to the next city, it will be more than what you could learn in 4 years of any school. If you really want to tap in. I don't mean traveling, just resort traveling, because you got to get off the resort. You have to see the people. When we went to Kenya, we went and stayed at the Kapinski. That's beautiful. I planned for my client to film in a casino. And right after that casino, which I had never seen done in an African casino, and I don't gamble, but I've been to a couple. Right after the casino, we went to Kibera, which is the worst slum in Nairobi. And so that exposure is priceless. You learn from where the presidents have stayed to where people are, gambling money, millions, and then going to where folks are like, do we have running water? And yes, they have running water in Kibera. It's all good in the hood if you come with the right attitude. And so those experiences are priceless. And I wish that, and I plan on being able to put something together for schools to take a franchise model, starting from middle school to high school to college, and especially the HBCUs. And instead of going to Spain, instead of going to all these European places, which is great if that's what you do. I first went to Europe, but to be able to go to Africa and tap into your culture so you understand you have a culture. You weren't just a slave. You weren't just a Jamaican who came over to London to build it up. Now they're asking you to leave, like some ingrates, and they need to, repent. You can experience that. So once we get that exposure and learn that money won't rock, you can save your money. Just because you get $100,000 doesn't mean you need a $50,000 car. Follow the Dave Ramseys who tell you to be debt free. Follow the people who don't have a gold chain around their neck, our big emblem. Because I tell you, those people regret those things when they're broke, when they need money. learn how to buy and invest land. And that's something that I don't just talk about. I have a solution. I have a website called mallofafrica.africa. I have right now 7 investments that we've vetted, and I know these people and they do good business where you can invest in Africa right now. And that's a free website at this moment. I don't know what the future holds, so you got to get the game while it's free. But we got to turn off the TV. We got to stop trying to go to the club every Friday and Saturday. If you don't have, I would say, at least $10,000 in the bank, you don't probably need to be in the club unless you're making money at the club, because you can make money while going to the club. I have a hashtag. I call it monetize your life. Whatever you do, you don't have to be me. They don't have to be you. They can be whoever they want, but they can monetize their life doing whatever they want. So we just got to get focused. And the number one thing is stop making excuses. There's a book called Extreme Ownership, and I recommend everyone to listen to it, even if it's on audiobook or if it's on the regular, typical paperback. You need to stop the excuses. Take control of everything that happens in your life and say, you know what, I had something to do with that. And that's difficult to do because some of us were abused, and we have to just say, what can I do so that never happens again? So I don't get taken advantage of. We see, you and I, we meet women, young women, they have a child, and we know they're going to have another child in the next 5 years because of their mentality, because we know somebody hears the weakness in them and can manipulate that weakness and only wants, a few things from them. And none of it is who they are on the inside, and leave them with another child. We have to get wisdom, and we need to get mentors and coaches and people. You're going to have to pay for some of that. If you want to go to the next level, you're going to have to pay somebody to bring you up into their circle. And that's just the way the game goes. Master P said it. He paid Michael Jackson's lawyer $25,000 when $25,000 would have meant something to him.
You see, I think you made really, really good points here. But we need to kind of stop the excuses, invest in our brain, read, circle of friends, mentorship, which is really, really good. Because as we know, the governments, and they're not really going to put anything in place for you to get to that level that we're actually talking about. What difference do you kind of hope to make in terms of like your business that you do in terms of this Mall for Africa with the people in the US, Africa, and globally through the work that you do?
Well, the difference I want to make is my purpose is to help business and people. You catch me on the street, I'm talking to somebody about the same thing. Sometimes I'm talking to clients about this is in me. It's just not on me. I want to be able to show people, no matter where you came from, what your scenario is, who they said you are isn't who you are. And everyone didn't have it rough. Some people had it so easy that they don't think they can be better than their parent. Some people had it so good that they're like, what else could I do? I'm just going to work a 9 to 5. But I tell that person too, you have a book in you, the same way I tell the person who's been abused or served, prison time or military time, you have a book in you. And from that book, that could be your business, your launch. We know that, businesses see a jump once they get a book. You talk about the government. Government's not there to help you. The government is to sustain you at a level where there's not chaos. Government's not there to save you. That's never been government's job. After doing my master's at Grambling State, the Harvard of the South, I call it, that's a HBCU, I interned for a Congress member, Yvette D. Clarke. And when I interned for her, I said, wow, I saw why the government doesn't change. It's not there to change. All of these governments, they're in cahoots and they barely have their own lives together. You think they can get your life? What we have to really do, just talk about government, is stop voting people in that are there and to be career politicians. We need to get them in, get them out, or we need to say, you became a millionaire. We now really need to expect you to do and put policies in place. And if you can't do that, and sometimes they can't, you need to say, you need to not run again. So it's on us again. Let's put the ownership on the people. We vote for, we get the politicians. I think George Carlin, the comedian, said, you know, we get the politicians we deserve. Trump is who America deserves. You know, you guys have a character. I'm not going to mention his name because I like coming to London and I don't want to be, you know, he's a character as well. And there's a lot of characters out there, even in Africa. Africa is not, we don't want to romanticize Africa. Africa is not the Wakanda you see, but it can be the Wakanda that you make it and you make your own life, you know, with God's help, of course. So I just want to be able to, for those who want to come to Africa or even want to get out of this country and build a business, I'm here, my company's here. Now, do you need money for that? Yes, but you don't have to start with $1 million. You just need to start and let's work that out. And I just love every moment of it.
Yeah, amazing. It's just, you made me laugh about the Wakanda and Boris. Yeah, it's quite true the way, as you do mention. But yeah, your kind of background now, just looking into it, working in government, doing business outside, doing business internationally. Yeah, it kind of gives you this almost complete picture of how systems run, and knowing that within systems, there's ways around that. And once you understand that, yeah, you can literally maneuver in terms of anywhere you go, because the system.
That's the key, the systems. And how do you work your system? Just by doing. When I worked for that internship, which was brief because they told me, a black man told me, hey, DC is not for you. You want to make change. And he wanted to belittle me while doing it, but I wasn't getting paid at that internship. I was running my business as well as trying to find like little work that I never found. I think the best job I found was for like $9, Radio Shack, and I never started because I needed to fly, you know, on the weekends to go to Chicago to meet with a client at the time for a magazine called Cameroon Enterprise that's no longer. It's not easy. And in people who are in the hustle and in the grind, that's exactly where you need to be, because you're going to shine and you got to get in that fertilizer first, you know. And we hear so many folks like Les Brown and people talk about this. But yeah, man, it's a ride.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I just picked up on the one thing you said about the individual who tried to belittle you, which was one of us. Why do you think that happens?
Because some say I graduated with a master's and did too much too soon. I don't think so, because I was actually behind. I was behind given that I had to switch schools. And so he had been in my position. I was known as an entertainment publicist to the people who knew me. Okay. And he had already ran, he said, $1 million company in entertainment, and it burned down, and, you know, he decided to get into government. But my arrogance to him of, hey, I want to have our Congress member do this, this, and this. She was a Congress member. She is a Congress member still out of Brooklyn. And I said, you know, I want to connect her with Jay-Z. Jay-Z wasn't the billionaire that he was at that time. But I said, I see the progression and I want her to really connect and I want to do this. And he was like, and this is what really got him. He sat me down at breakfast and he said, you had the communications chief of staff, the communications director. You created a social media page for the Congresswoman? I said, yes. He said, nobody has that unless they're running for president at the time. At the time, social media wasn't, you know, a thing. He's like, that's not what we do in DC. I said, but that's where you can deliver the message. And Nancy Pelosi had put in the rule that Congress had to be there during the week. They could only go back over the weekend. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm solving a problem. That's what I do. And that's what I say. I'm creative. And if I can't be creative, I don't need to be on the project. So he basically told me I would not be offered a job. I would not be offered an extension. And he gave me some game on the way. But at the same time, he told me, he's like, I've been where you've been and I did it better than you. And, you know, and to me, that's motivation and fuel. So I have business ideas that my wife, when we were in college and she was my girlfriend, or even while we were married, she's like, I don't know about that. I fuel off that because I'm going to show you how it's going to work. So I don't mind. You didn't do anything but put some more lighting fluid on my barbecue. Let's go. Tell me I can't do it and watch me do it.
I think that's the right attitude. But, it's so strange that when we get to this point where you meet somebody like you and you think, okay, we're all going in the same trajectory. We're just all going to try to go for success. But they kind of try to pull you down a little bit, which is, it shouldn't really be the way. And it kind of goes back to the way we are thinking instead of group economics, thinking, okay, let's come in as group economics and let's elevate and all go in the same direction. Yeah, some of us, unfortunately, we're still in that space. The good thing with you is, and most people, is that you give them the extra fuel to say, look, okay, that's the way you might think, but I'm going upstairs. So yeah, I'll leave you on the same floor, but don't worry, I'll see you in a couple of months. And also shows your vision. At that time, thinking about the whole point of being on social media, connecting with these artists who are going to be very prominent within the industry, is very, very remarkable, actually. I'm very, very impressed. Wow. Yeah, visionary. So what is behind the name Chief Kellen? Is that from your wife's side, or is it a name that you got given?
My father-in-law says in Kim is chief in Cameroon. Only a chief can make a chief, like an apostle can make an apostle. So, it is what it is. It's, it's like if they say Queen Elizabeth, there's no explanation to it. The title is the title, earned it through not just, business, but how I treat my wife, how I treat my family. My father-in-law is always welcomed in my house, as most of my elders in my family. I have aunts and uncles. Everybody can come through. My mother is passed, so she'd always be in my house. It's just, and my father is always invited. They're from California. California people, they love California and they travel whenever, needed usually. And I take that title seriously because I'm seeing, we don't focus on our Mr. or Mrs. in America. That's just what it is. And now you can be whatever you want. People are transgender this, transgender that, and that's their life. But Chief, and you got to put some respect on the name and the title.
100%. I agree. This is really, really good. Being responsible, being accountable, which is very, very important things amongst.
And it's nothing that you wear. Like if you see my emails, you're not going to see, this. Usually if I ask someone, I'll say in Kim, if they ask about it, because you've seen it on the social media. I just want people to know the caliber. But I also see people wearing titles that they're not real titles. You have people calling themselves king of whatever, your excellency, or I've even seen people call themselves a barrister, and I ask them, a legal question, and they're like, oh, no, I'm not, and I'm like, then you can't use that name. You can only be used a title that's granted to you. If I'm in London and I say, sir, and you're not knighted, it's a different thing than being in America. But if you see someone and they are knighted, they hold on to that title. I just want people to know that I try to stay as humble as possible, approachable as possible, but there is a title on my name, and you can't call me out of my name unless you want to call me, a title that I have.
Oh, amazing. And what is the long-term vision of your companies? You obviously have the CPR firm. Is it Mall of Africa, right?
Mall of Africa, Africa.
Africa, yeah. So yeah. What is the long-term vision for these businesses of yours?
The long-term vision is to make other people's vision come true and make some money while doing that. People constantly tell me what they don't have. And I've been there when I, don't have. And I think of creative ways to, make money. Even with the Mall of Africa, that actually is taken because there's a mallofafrica.com. And they're going to come to me one day and say, we find enough value in mallofafrica.africa, the same way that Adidas.Africa and Acon.Africa, which I own, they're going to come and say, we want these domain names because like the great Byron Allen, who owns the Weather Channel here in America, he bought .coms while putting his house on foreclosure. And I've been able to have, short conversations with him, and even recently. And I'm like, we're alike in a lot of ways. I'm like, okay, I get it. I get what you're saying. I do that. I didn't know you were into that. It's to make other visions. I get just so happy being able to take somebody who can quit their job because they're making enough money to provide for themselves, for their family. That is a great thing. And I see it like a movie. And the scriptures say your gift will make room for you. And I'm just working inside my gift. That's why a lot of times I'll tell people, that's not the project for me, but I know somebody, and that I'm going to connect you. But what I can do is be that bridge. And so if my company doesn't connect you and we can be part of the project where we can all make money, I can make sure this project goes the right way, because it may not be for my company, but I have a friend who does it. But this friend might need a little nudging or doesn't know how to create their own system. So I'm helping two people in one and making money at the same time. And we can't shy away from your time is valuable, people. I think everybody has some consulting in them. You just got to find something that is of value, people, enough. Find it and then stand on whatever your price is and get that price, and others will flock to you if they are wise.
Wow, amazing. You got the right ideas here of engaging, empowering, and then elevating. Just basically understanding that, if you cannot do the work yourself, you'll empower others to kind of get it done. And then obviously the elevation comes through the group economics, where you kind of say, okay, we can work together, let's collaborate, let's do this. Quite incredible. So usually towards the end of the show, we give our special guest 2 minutes or so to kind of tell us something about their business, or you might want to give a message out to the people who are listening in terms of, I don't know, their vision or what they can do to get to where you are at. So the floor and the stage and the concert hall is all yours.
Well, what I want you guys to really tap into, not where I'm at, but where you want to go. And if somewhere, down the line, that vision, it can meet and we can help as consultants, as publicists, as marketers, whatever we are, that's great. The way to tap into that is to find out what you're naturally great at and to just really hone in on that and do it. And you're going to have naysayers. You're going to have people who say you're doing too much. Oh, life is short. Don't just have fun. No, life is long if you're doing it right. And you need to have a plan so you always, can have something in, not just in your wallet, but in your bank, in your refrigerator. What I do is what I always knew I wanted to do. It's naturally in me. What you do, it's in you too. So I just want you to find that and then stop focusing on the social media. You can hire somebody to do that because social media is fake. No one's putting their time where, they got arrested, where their, dog ran away and their kids are crying, where, whatever the case may be. Focus on what you are good at and find a place that you're comfortable. Don't think that just because you were born here, you have to be there. Here in America, and especially in big cities, most people don't leave their city, or they don't even leave. I think they said, 60-mile radius. They die in the 60-mile radius. For me, that's not the way I wanted to live my life. If you're comfortable, that's fine. But I would say go travel, see, and get uncomfortable. Because being uncomfortable is where you grow. And you guys heard it preached by so many preachers that a flower and things can't grow without sprouting. And you got to be able to sprout. And with that, just when you get new muscles, that hurts when you get new muscles when you're in the gym. I know something about it. So believe it, under this shirt, you'll see muscles. And you can't live an average life. Average is boring. Average is, we always tell our kids, normal is for losers. Don't be normal. Really, there is no normal, but whatever they're telling you, don't be normal. So that's what I want to leave you with, because I'm not a unicorn. I've just tapped into my purpose. And this is what that looks like when you know what you're supposed to be doing. I'm good at many things, but I know what I'm supposed to be doing. So I would leave you guys with that. Make sure you follow Kellen Cash on the social medias. You can always reach out. You can book some time on anywhere you see on social media. We have a link for that. YouTube, Kellen Cash. That's Kellen Cash with the K. Also, the Diversified Game is the other platform. We'd love if you like, subscribe, and share that, because we know that we're helping people get inspired and moving to that next level in their life.
Wow. That's a speech for the ages. Incredible. Thank you so much. You do give amazing advice. And I think for all our listeners, you really need to kind of play this back and listen to those words, because there's really gold nuggets there saying you really need to focus, find your purpose, find the drive. Just make sure you're not accepting the normal average. Be that next level. Step up the game. Be accountable. Elevate yourself. There's so much information there, and we really thank you for giving us this insight into an entrepreneur's mindset in terms of success, multiple revenue streams. Really, really quite incredible. And finally, what do you think of the WeAfric project?
I like it. I really like it. Everything that you guys are doing is putting Africa in the light that it needs to be put in. When I had Daniel on, to hear about being able to go back, even though, to have a restaurant in London is no easy thing, or anywhere in the UK is no easy thing because it's expensive. And to be able to win there, but then to say, I'm going to come back. I think everybody needs to come back. And when I say that, of course, if you're Black, you need to tap into Africa. But just because you're Black doesn't mean Africa's for you. Maybe you just need to visit, and that's that. But even if you're not Black, all humankind is from Africa. I've seen, in Addis, in Ethiopia, what we know as the first human. And everybody is welcomed in Africa. That's the beautiful part, when you have the right attitude. And we hope that with everybody coming back through, what you're doing, that you're able to get their minds conditioned right, because that's the hard part, Penny. That's the part that's going to be, I pray that we don't have wars even between Black people. Like, we've seen the issues in Liberia in the past between when folks come back. So I think the platform is needed. I think a platform like yours should be funded by your local government. If you don't want to pay reparations, you can at least fund what's positive going into Africa, because you surely could fund what was taken out of Africa, what was taken out of, from Jamaica. I mean, the whole history, we could go through that, and that's a whole nother topic. But I love it, and I think it's positive, and to focus on that positive, because for so long we've had the negative spotlighted. Now we need WeAfric to show that positive and to get people to put their dollars back, if nothing else. WeAfric, I am because we are.
Thank you for watching the latest episode of WeAfric Talk. We hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. Be part of the WeAfric family, subscribe and share. And remember, we're here to shake things up, reverse the flow, and be great. I am because we are.